we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you a special presentation of
Two Nerds, a podcast. Your home for everything movies, music, video games, and everything in between. With your hosts, Buddy the Bruiser, and Dynamite Jared Latchey.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a very special episode of Two Nerds, a Podcast. I am Buddy the Bruiser.
And I'm Dynamite Jared Latchey.
And Jared, we've got a very special guest on the show today.
Yes, we
do. People have been calling him a modern Renaissance man.
That's true.
He's an actor, writer, director, playwright, and you know what else?
What else?
He's got a hell of a goatee.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to introduce to you Nicolas Vince. How you doing, man?
Doing very well, but after that introduction, I'm finding it very difficult to stop giggling. Thank you. I think it's the goatee that really makes me a Renaissance man.
It's true. Yeah. Don't play with it too much while we're on here. We want the fans to see the goatee in its full glory.
You see, now I'm going to become really conscious. I'm trying to make it as pointy as possible now. Yeah. Now, do you know the real... okay, so Jared, you have a beard as well.
I was going to shave this morning. I was going to trim it up to look nice, and I completely slipped my mind.
It's fine. A quick tip for those of you who wear beards, don't use plastic combs. Only use a bone comb.
Plastic combs.
Plastic combs are a no-no.
Oh, combs. Okay, combs. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't ever comb my beard. Which
I
is
don't
weird.
comb mine. When I have it grown out, I don't comb. I occasionally will brush it down, but I don't think yeah.
I found a mustache comb at my work one day, and I have that in my room, but I've never really used it.
It's likely to be either bone or wood, I guess, varnished wood. But basically, plastic combs hurt if you use them on a beard. They snag. But if you use a bone comb, you can comb your beard beautifully.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know, yeah.
I'm going to have to get a bone beard comb and really take my beard game to the next level.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're learning all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's already a very educational show for us. So, let's just get right to it. So, you were born in West Germany, but now you currently live in London?
That's right. Yes. So basically I was born... God, that really is getting started. So basically I was born in West Germany, obviously it doesn't exist anymore, because my father was in the Royal Air Force. And he was posted over there for 3 years, and I arrived 2 years and 9 months into the journeys. So I was literally there for 3 months, and then they brought me to the UK. And then I grew up in West Sussex.
Cool. And you've kind of been in the UK area ever since?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Obviously, apart from holidays. My parents were very good about taking us to Europe. I think by the time I was 14, we never did Eastern Europe, but we did Western Europe. So, France, Spain, Switzerland, Italy. Venice in Italy was my favorite city to visit on holiday. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, no, I've as I say, was brought up in West Sussex, and then Horsham, a place called Horsham in West Sussex. And then I came up to London for drama school, spent 3 years in London, then went back down to Horsham because, poor struggling actor, couldn't afford to keep myself. Was there for a few years and then eventually moved back up to London again. So I've been in London ever since.
Awesome. So you mentioned drama school. But before that, when did you know you wanted to get into the whole acting thing?
Well, according to basically forever, I remember playing, I don't know if you know these books, Beatrix Potter books.
Okay, yeah, I recall.
Oh wait,
that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Peter Rabbit. I played Peter Rabbit when I was 6 or 7 years old at school. I remember I had cardboard ears that I fell off when I was in the watering can. I remember that very clearly. So, I started as soon as I could. I was completely bitten by the bug, and then didn't go to theatre school or anything. Those things weren't around when I was growing up. But was doing every amateur production I possibly could right up until when I went to drama school at the age of 21.
And you actually met Clive Barker while you were in drama school, or did that happen afterward?
That happened afterwards. Basically, Simon Bamford, who plays Butterball in Hellraiser, was in the same year at drama school, Mount View Theatre School. And he'd met Clive and had worked with Clive's fringe theatre company called the Dog Company. So I'd seen a couple of their shows, and then, so this is about a couple of years after leaving drama school, because I was still working in the area. Funnily enough, I was working in an art framers in Crouch End, where the theatre school was, which is just around the corner from where Clive lived. And basically, Simon invited me to a party, and that's where I met Clive, and we became really good friends.
Awesome. Cool. Before we go any further with that, I have a question. I don't want to mess up the card. Yeah, so you mentioned that you were doing like amateur productions and stuff like that. Was there like films that you were really interested in too before you got into film, or you were mostly like interested in the theatrical aspect of acting?
Or like, what was your favorite like horror film at the time? Do you remember, or what really got you into it?
Okay. Well, there are kind of two questions there. I mean, back in those days, of course, because we're talking about the 1960s and 70s, people weren't really making indie films like they were now.
Yeah.
So that you didn't, if you wanted to get into acting, amateur dramatics, as they were known, theatre. Funnily enough, West Sussex, as I say, where I grew up, had the highest number of amateur theatre companies in the country for any county. It was a big county, but there were many theatre companies, and so yeah, that's kind of what I was. In terms of films, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't see them, but basically, if I angle my camera up a little, you can probably just about see at the very, very top, there's Vincent Price in Mask of the Red Death.
Roger Corman.
Yeah, Roger Corman. Yeah. I'll tip that back down again. So Roger Corman. That was, the Universal monsters, but basically Roger Corman, all those Edgar Allan Poe. I'd been reading short story, ghost stories and so on ever since I could get them at the library, at the local library when I got my, so early teens. I'd always been interested in ghost stories and so on. But Roger Corman is the man as far as I'm concerned.
Cool. So you met Clive Barker.
Mm-hmm.
And was there sort of an audition process, or did they just have you go in and start chewing stuff, or like how did this work?
Basically, it was Clive used all his mates to play monsters, and his cousin Grace. But Simon, as I say, Simon had worked with the Dog Company. Doug Bradley had come from Liverpool to move down to London with Clive. When Clive moved, they brought the Dog Company from Liverpool to London. And then there was me, and I'd been modelling for Clive for a few years, for book covers and various art and so on. And Clive just said, I'm making this movie. I'd like you to be in it. There is some makeup involved.
Some.
Yeah. And probably he used the same line on Simon Bamford. But I do remember, it wasn't as easy as that, because basically Clive said, I really want you to play the part. I've got your 10x8 photographs, but basically you look too nice and pretty. And you get a whole load of new photographs done. So I had to go and pay for myself. I had to, not cheap in those days. Well, not cheap now. Probably 80, 90 quid £90. Probably about £200 or £300 these days with inflation. Yeah. So I had to go and pay for those myself, and I
So
remember.
like spooky headshots?
Yeah, I mean, I slicked my hair back, and I can't find them. Wish I had the contact sheet somewhere, because I remember I also had a cold sore on my lip, so I looked as if I was bruised. And I remember the photographer saying, "It's okay, we can take that. I'll take that
Fix
out.
it in post.
Yeah, fix it in post." And of course,
That's our catchphrase on the show.
That's life. I'm going to fix my life in post. So yeah, and I remember, and in those days, of course, this is before Photoshop, digital, or anything. That literally meant he would have sat with a scalpel, scraping off the dark bits and physically retouching it up. And I said, no, don't do that. I really want to look like a bruiser. I want to look tough and so on. That obviously he did very reluctantly, I remember. Agreed to leave me with a cold sore in the photographs, and it obviously worked.
Yeah,
So,
where everything worked out. So
yeah.
I heard, well, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but basically it took maybe, because it wasn't you got onto set and you had makeup applied to every day. It was a mask, and it took like 4 or 3 months just to get the look right, or just for the casting to come back, or just tell us about the look of the monster and the whole, where all that came from.
Okay, well, I mean, the look of Chatterer, I only really worked this out afterwards. The whole idea of the hooks in the mouth and so on, that peeled back. The mouth came from, Clive has said afterwards, because what had happened when I was 19 years old, they had to do major surgery on my face. So I was born with my teeth meeting like that, which is known as undershot. Normally your teeth meet like that, with the upper overlapping the lower. Mm-hmm. So what they had to do was they cut away my top jaw, and then they used pieces of bone from my hips and they put those in, and then they wired it all together. They went in through the mouth. So they physically peeled the skin back. And I told Clive this story. And I told Clive this story fairly soon after we'd met. And it obviously kind of stuck in his mind, because when I was talking to him after Hellraiser, he kind of saying that was part of the inspiration for the idea that Chatterer had these teeth that were pulled back, and so on. So Clive had drawn a picture of the Chatterer, and then that was given to a young gentleman at Image Animation, the company that did all the special effects makeup, called Nigel Booth, as I say, and he basically then sculpted the mask onto a life cast of my head. So I was covered in plaster and so on, and they took a life cast of my head, and then Nigel sculpted the Chatterer onto that in clay, and then they put more plaster of Paris over that and made a mold for the latex, the foam latex. And so that's why I say it took about 3 months. That whole process of me walking into the studio, the makeup studio, and then creating that before I actually physically got on set. That took about 3 months.
Going back, when you met Clive, was he already an established author with Hellbound, or did you write him before? Did you meet him before he wrote the book, or like when was this?
That's a really interesting question. Let me see if I can actually get the exact dates, because story of me. I do actually have I can't find it somewhere. I was hoping I was just going to be able to go like, okay, like numbers. Let me put in numbers. I can give you the exact dates of when we of when we met. In fact, I know the exact date. I should have it somewhere of when we actually met, because Clive drew me on that day, and I still got the picture. And he signed and dated it. So the date is like a few like 4 or 5 days after. We actually met at a party.
Okay.
I can't actually see it at the moment. So basically, yeah, no, it'll come. No, okay. So yes, I had met him. Sorry, I can't give you the exact date, but yeah, I had met him. It was Books of Blood. So when I met Clive, he wasn't famous. I mean, Stephen King hadn't made the famous quote about "I've seen the future of horror."
Yeah.
So Clive, I remember going to. I must have known Clive because I remember going to a launch party for the Books of Blood and for Weave World. I mean, the launch party for the Books of Blood was in Clive's home. The launch party for Weave World was in the West End, somewhere in London, at a nightclub. So things had gone up. So yeah, I mean, I'd known him. He was on the cusp of being famous, if you like. And it was modeling for the covers of an edition of the Books of Blood, was what we were working on between me meeting him and actually getting into Hellraiser.
Cool. Jared, do you have any questions about?
I was just bringing back the goatee here. I know it was a different time back then. Facial hair wasn't as prevalent, at least not in America, from what I can see in like movies and stuff.
Because it's not like we were alive at the time.
No, I just see movies and stuff. So I was born in '88. I have 2 years of experience. But yeah, you said you were too handsome, too pretty for the headshots. Is he referring to maybe a possible goatee? Was the goatee present back then?
No, it wasn't. I mean, basically, I got slightly. In those days, I had hair, which was permed and growing out. It was permed. Actually, but 2 seconds. Bear with me. I am still here, folks. I'm just grabbing stuff. Doing that usual thing, and there's the dog walking in. Yes, the dog. Bertie, sit down. I'm talking. No, you can't. Come on. So let me see. Okay. Yeah, these are the photographs. That's what I look like.
Okay.
You look like Chandler Bing.
Yeah, you look like Chandler Bing from Friends.
What was known as a flat top at the time, which is fascinating. I don't know if you still see but basically, literally, they used to get a thing with a spirit level in it, so you had to hold your head still, and then they gave you a flat top. So that's the sort of thing I was wearing. You know, that's what I looked like back in those days. So, yes. What was the question again? Sorry, I've completely.
It was just about the goatee. So we've seen that the goatee was not present. The flat top was, though.
But I did have a goatee when I was at school. So around about the age of 16.
Oh, okay.
So it would come and go.
I'm ridiculous,
like Karma Chameleon.
Yeah. I don't advise anyone who's 16 to grow a beard. Okay, you look ridiculous.
I had one in junior high, man. It was wild.
I've been told recently by my girlfriend's friends that I look 30 because of my beard, because people her age can't grow good facial hair. So I look like I'm 30 now automatically just because I have a beard.
It's interesting. I mean, the beards have made a real. I think it's hipsters, who. I don't even have that term over there in the UK.
Oh, we do.
Oh, yeah.
Hipsters have beards. I was reading an article recently saying these things go in waves. So basically, if the population of men is predominantly clean-shaven, then men with beards are more attractive to women because they're unusual.
Right.
And then it's like people start thinking, oh, hey. This guy's getting the girls. The beard obviously helps. I'll grow a beard. So, basically it swings across and all young men start growing beard. And then once you have predominantly bearded guys, people, the ones who are clean shaven are the ones that stand out and therefore more attractive to women. And then the whole pendulum will swing back the other way.
So is that what happened in the 80s? So like they had the mustaches and stuff in the 70s, and so then they went clean shaven to counteract the mustache?
Well, this is like 80s porn and gay men. I mean, I don't know what it was. These handlebar moustaches that, I remember seeing a bag. They were known as clones. Gay men in the 1980s were known as clones because they all wore tight jeans, check shirts, and they had these little moustaches. These handlebar moustaches.
The handlebars?
Yeah, completely ridiculous. So, I mean, that's about how facial hair. It's all swings and roundabouts as far as I'm concerned.
We're just trying to give everyone out there just like a really good idea
of what it was like.
Of what it was like and how you should react to the facial hair trends around you in order to properly attract your sexual partners or whatever.
Absolutely.
You're doing.
Although, I mean, I did back in probably about 10, 15 years ago. When I was working in an office, I remember speaking to one of the bosses, and he said, "No, I never trust a man with a beard." And he was serious. And I thought, "You're joking." He said, "No, he was completely serious because he'd grown up, and never trust a man with a beard because they got something to hide. If they're hiding part of their face."
Probably a butt chin or something. Mine's a little bit of neck fat. That's what mine's.
Yeah, the double chin is usually.
Yeah, I'm trying to cover the double chin.
Oh, me too. Oh God, yeah. That's we all succumb to gravity.
So we're all just a bunch of untrustworthy guys here. We're just
totally.
Well, we'll get back to facial hair a little bit later in the show, towards the end. We got some stuff to say, but we'll keep you in suspense a little bit.
Okay.
Well, let's get back to Hellraiser. So, do you have any on-set stories from Hellraiser, or what was it like shooting the film?
Well, it was really interesting. I mean, it was fascinating. I mean, I made some great friends who I'm still in contact. The guys from Image Animation. Jeff Portis, Roy Puddyfoot, Cliff Wallace, John Cormacan. I'm still in regular. In fact, I'm going to be seeing Jeff Portis next month when we do a special screening of Hellraiser, the original 35mm print, at a festival called Celluloid Screens. And so I met some amazingly talented people, met some wonderful friends. But most of the time, you're not on set. So you don't really know what's going on. And whenever I did go on set, I was in full makeup and costume, and I could hardly see. I mean, I literally just had a little pinhole in my left eye. And I had to be led by hand to get onto set. So I always had somebody with me. So I really didn't know that much about how films were made through that experience.
Yeah.
And the same again on Hellbound. Even though we with the later makeup, I had eyes. It wasn't until Nightbreed that whenever I went on set, I could actually see what I was doing.
Completely see.
Yeah, I could. And in fact, I had the weird thing. John Minchin, the sound guy who I'd worked with on both Hellraiser and Hellbound. Came up to me, and I think I was out of makeup. I may have been under Kinski makeup, but he introduced himself, and I thought, I know who you are because we've already made 2 films together. There is that thing of complete disconnect because we were pretty hidden. We were particularly on the first movie, we were in the green room, and it was a very, very small studio. The production village they're in, so we couldn't really go on set. You couldn't, there wasn't space to go on and watch and be quiet or anything like that. So there was a real disconnect between the cast and the crew, the guys, the Cenobites and the crew, until the rap party when I got to meet quite a few more people. But so basically, we knew all the guys from Image Animation because then. As I say, we'd met them 3 months before, and we'd been working with them. We'd had tests, and we had makeup fittings and so on. So I knew those guys really, really well, but really didn't know much of the rest of the crew.
I know they did this with the new It movie that just came out, and they did it with the old one as well. But they kind of kept the child actors and Pennywise separate. just to get like more of a general reaction? Did they do that at all with the Cenobites and the human characters?
Not, I think. I remember Claire Higgins reading, introducing myself and saying, I'm playing Chatter, and she said, "Oh, I don't think I better speak to you then." And I thought, oh, well, that's fairly standoffish. And it wasn't until decades later that I realised, A, she's not really into horror movies, and B, it's part of the actor's process. She's got a job to do. She wants to meet the Cenobites. In fact, we didn't actually have any scenes together until the second movie. I don't really think we have any scenes together, full stop. It's all with Larry. We don't really. So I didn't really get to meet Claire until decades later at convention. So not deliberately. I think it is that thing on set where you're called in, you're on set when you're needed. Otherwise, you're back in your dressing room. You're tucked away.
Right.
And obviously we had separate dressing rooms and so on. I mean, the Cenobites were all in together in the one room, and everybody else had Claire and Andrew Robinson had their own. So we didn't get to see them much. Funnily enough, of course, there is a child in the first movie. I don't know if you look, the shot is still there. They covered a child to play Skinned Frank. Okay. In the original, before they gave us money to go back and do that hole coming up through the floor, all that. So basically, the idea was that Frank starts off as a child that then grows into an adult. So you see a child crawling across the floor, and I think he was about 12 years old, something like that. He's not credited anywhere. Yeah. It was just a guy it was a kid that the guys from Image Animation had worked with on an advert, and they knew he was really good with prosthetic makeup.
That's interesting. That's completely different than what actually happens. I don't know. Was there?
You're right. What questions?
No. Just trying to think about a good segue into something.
Well, we're trying to. I'm trying to find something more for Hellraiser, but I think that maybe we should move on to NightBreed now.
Okay.
I actually saw a screening before it was like totally completed of the director's cut, and that's actually the only version of the movie that I've seen. I've never even seen the original theatrical cut, but I went to like a convention and Doug was there and stuff, and he talked about it a little bit. But have you seen this director's cut that's out now? I think it's out majorly on Blu-ray now.
Yes. No, I've seen all. So basically what happened was the story of the different cuts of NightBreed. You have the original theatrical release. Then you have the Cabal cut, which was put together by Russell Charrington of a work print and some DVD and some footage they've found as a gift to Clive. Through the Cabal cut, that garnered enough interest. I think they raised something like 13,000 signatures online, asking for Morgan Creek to release a better cut, to release a director's cut. They couldn't find the footage, then they eventually found the footage. That's what became the director's cut.
Okay, so that's what I saw the Cabal cut then.
You saw you'd most likely have seen the Cabal cut.
Yeah, because I definitely noticed like the difference in quality in some of the clips and stuff.
Yeah, 80s porno, basically, as Russell used to describe it because we went out on tour. We went to a lot of these screenings. Myself, Simon, in the UK. I went to one, a couple in the States. Then we get the Cabal cut because they actually found the footage. So that was done with Mark Miller and Clive, and I'm desperately trying to remember the name of the editor, but I can't. It'll come to me. That was released. That's the one that's on Blu-ray. They are now doing an extremely limited edition of the Cabal cut, because I think it's limited to something like 200 copies, and it costs an arm and a leg. I think it's like over $100 or something like that,
Oh,
because it
Jesus.
really is. Yeah, I mean, it's not cheap. It's not, because I thought, oh great, because one of the problems with the director's cut is you can't get a European version of the DVD or Blu-ray. There's only a US version of it. It did appear on Netflix over here, and so on. So yeah, so that's the look. So I have seen that, and in fact, I attended a screening of the director's cut in Los Angeles where Clive was present, and that was a wonderful experience. That was seeing Clive there again after so many years, and they had quite a few people, and Bobby was there, who played Laurie, quite a few, and Simon Bamford, who plays Onaka, in that. Don't think Doug was there. And some of the makeup guys were there as well.
So, so you've seen the theatrical and the Cabal and the director's cut, and so I know that there's a lot of people that don't really like that theatrical cut because the
studio ripped it to shreds.
They like really chopped it up, and it's almost like an entirely different movie. So what's your preference on the cuts here?
The director's cut. I mean, having said that, I mean, I do like that. I like all three of them. I have tremendous respect for Russell Sherrington and what he achieved with the Cabal cut. Russell directed. He didn't actually edit it. And again, the name of the editor has gone from my mind entirely, of that version. So the director's cut is much closer to Clive's original vision.
Yeah.
The theatrical release still is loved by very many people. I mean, I still get people at conventions coming up and wanting to buy Kinski. In fact, I was talking to Jason Williams-Lee on my show last night, chattering with Nicolas Vince about his film, and he was talking about the influence that Kinski, how much Kinski had terrified him. Many gay people really identified with NightBreed. This whole idea of a community where monsters, i.e. people who are different, could go and live, really touched people. And I know, because I've spoken to them, it really helped people adjust and accept themselves for who and what they are. So I think all three of them, for different reasons, I love.
Awesome. Like I said, I think I own the theatrical cut on VHS, but I don't think I've never watched it. I've only seen that Cabal cut, so that's all I have to go off of.
Right.
Kind of heard that like the theatrical cut turned out to be like more of a slasher movie. It was more focused on that murderer than the actual monsters and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Clive wrote this wonderful European fairy tale, or folk tale, if you like, about monsters and how monsters are the good guys and human beings are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And really asking the question, okay, who's really the monster here? There were whole loads of reasons why it went wrong and decisions were made, and basically the studio Morgan Creek, one of the partners, left, and they, I think, were looking for another Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Where you've got sexy masochistic monsters. And then you've got this movie all about where monsters, more monsters than ever have been filmed before. And they're the good guys, and they just didn't know how to market it. And so they, halfway through, and as I say, there were change of personnel at Morgan Creek. And so they made it into a stalk and slash, and then they shot some more footage to really build up Decker, David Cronenberg's character, as the monster who becomes the stalk and slash. And it was, that was what they were wanting to do, because those movies made money. So they were basically trying to create another Freddy Krueger. And of course, it just doesn't work when you try and do things like that. If you've got something as huge, and it's like trying to change the course of a Pantechnicon on ice. You can't do things like that.
That was kind of the start, or maybe the final nail in the coffin with Clive's disenchantment with Hollywood? Then?
Well, no, because he went on to film Lord of Illusion, based on one of his other short films, after he did NightBreed, with Scott Bakula. I think that was the one that really. I mean,
so the NightBreed was the start, and then Lord of Illusion really just was like,
I'm done.
Enough. Yeah, I mean, he concentrated on the writing and the art and the which eventually gives us Abarat, and a whole slew of books, and so on. Clive describes himself as an Imagineer, and I really don't want to speak on Clive's behalf, but I think he's got better things to do with his time. Filmmaking is incredibly hard, and it's long hours, and it means that you have to work with and there are so many people with their fingers in the pie. From a creative perspective, it's very hard to create something that you can say, okay, this is my original vision. And there's huge amounts of money involved with it as well. Clive went on he didn't entirely walk away from the movies because he produced stuff. He's a producer on Gods and Monsters, the biopic of, it's got Brendan Fraser in it, it's got Ian McKellen, James Whale, the director of
the Universal movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biopic of that, of James Whale, is a wonderful movie, and Clive's one of the producers on it. So he's done stuff with other films, but yeah, I think he just decided he wanted to write and paint pictures, and thank heavens he does.
Yeah. Kind of speaking of writing, you do a lot of writing as well. Including a backstory to your character in Hellraiser, and you've written all kinds of stuff. You've written plays. Why don't you just talk about some of the stuff you've done?
Well, I love the fact that people, and thank you again for calling me a Renaissance man. The truth of it is, I'm easily bored and distracted, and I'm always wanting to learn.
But then, in my case, it never gets anything done because I start something and then I just get so bored and I go on to something else and just nothing ever gets done.
Yeah. No, I'm just, oh look, there's a thing. It really is. I'm very bad at it, and it's also, basically what happened was I left acting and went into computers, to earn money. After Clive, after NightBreed, Clive left the country, and I kind of looked around and thought, yeah, I've made 3 movies. I actually would like to write. And then I wrote comics. I wrote Hellraiser comics, NightBreed comics for Marvel, some of which were republished a couple of years, a year or two back, the Marvel Frontier collection, in fact. And then basically I got made redundant in 2012, and I thought, okay, well, I've got some money. I don't actually have to go out and work. I'm going to write. And I ended up by writing 2 volumes of short stories. From the first volume, I met some people who were involved in the London Horror Festival, which is a festival starting next month of live theatre, horror theatre, the longest running in this country. And they said, they liked my work, like Peter and Phil, and I said, okay, right, I'll dramatize one of my stories. I ended up by dramatizing 2 of the short stories from my collection, What Monsters Do. And then so that's kind of like the plays and so on. And I've got ideas for other plays, which I keep on looking at and thinking, I really need to sit down and write that. I must sit down. Then I find myself working on YouTube and working on my chattering show and so on. And then the Chatterer story came out of the fact that somebody asked me to write one, a gentleman called Eric Gross, said, would I like to write a story for another project? So I started that about 4 years ago. And then that just didn't work out. And then I saw the first volume of Hellraiser anthology from Seraphim. And I got really excited because I thought it's brilliant. If you haven't, I really do recommend it. And then I said, "Oh, by the way, I've got a short story about how a boy became Chatterer." And then I said, "Yeah, let's have a look at it." Ben Mears is the editor, and he read it and he came back and said, "This is wonderful. I actually found it disturbing." So yeah, that comes out next weekend.
Really?
It's Son of Monster Palooza in Los Angeles, 15th of September. Yeah, this coming weekend. They're going to be selling the hardback version there, and I think the PDF, the electronic version, will come out a little while later on, and then there'll be softbacks. But yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it actually in the flesh. And of course, it's illustrated by Clive.
Oh, that's...
So is it canon?
Seems fitting.
Is this canon now?
It's kind of, like when I saw the email, I was like, "What do you mean Clive's going to illustrate one of my short stories?" In fact, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it. It's like, that's amazing. He's done some some small pending illustrations to go with it, which working really, really well. And I've seen the volume 2 now, and it's full of some other wonderful stories. And what I really like about the Hellraiser anthology is that it's not censored, because Seraphim are doing it themselves. They can really take the idea there are no limits. So I didn't hold back when I wrote my story. Prayers of Desire is the name of the short story.
Awesome. We'll be checking that out
Yeah,
then,
for sure.
whenever we can get our hands on it.
So that's what you've been up to. Besides writing that recently, you've also kind of been on fire with all these short films, and you've worked with Laurie Brewster on his new film that's coming out. You've been in tons of shorts. Do any of them stand out to you, really, that you'd be able to throw us a record? Because most of them I couldn't find online.
It's interesting. The reason why... Okay, so there is one feature film available called Hollower, which I shot in one day, all my parts. And basically, you see me throughout the entire movie. Basically, I'm playing a detective interviewing somebody. That's a really nice film. It's from Myco Entertainment, Mycho Entertainment, Hollower. That is online. All the other films basically are just coming to the end of their festival run. So I'm not quite sure what's happening with them. Funnily enough, my first short film as writer, director, and actor, because, in fact, the dog's in it as well, come to think of it.
What kind of dog do we have here?
I don't know, where is he? Bertie? You might climb up onto my lap and I can show you my dog. Bertie. Yeah, he's coming because he thinks he might actually get food. You're going to come up on my lap. Come on. Hold on. Let me angle the camera. Bertie, look at the camera. No, come up. There's not happy dog, obviously. There we are. I know you don't like to be... Bertie, look at the camera. You are just rubbish. You're actually very good in the film. You're very, very good in the film. He's actually remarkably good in the film.
Oh, wow. So is that a pit bull?
Say again? He's what we call a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. We don't use the term pit bull in this country because they're illegal.
Okay. Yeah.
It just causes endless confusion. Yeah, so we call them Staffies, Staffordshire Bull Terrier. He's a mix between a lab, we don't know, we got him from a rescue home. So yeah, that's Bertie, who's in The Night Whispered. And that, all going well, should be available to purchase in the next couple of days. To rent, purchase. I've been trying to get this organized. Basically, I need to fulfill my Kickstarter pledges, which include downloads of The Night Whispered. And I thought, actually, I might as well put this online and see if anybody wants to buy it. So that should be available in the next couple of days. But things like there's Mark Logan's Rats, there's KT Bonham's Mindless, which I think Retribution by Paddy Murphy, which is I'll move my head slightly. There's a poster behind me with pink writing on. I think that's coming from Celtic Badger Media in the next month or so. That's going to be available to download and purchase as well. Yeah, and I think it's going online. That was the last they were saying with that. So these things just take a long time because.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I've been trying to get my film all over the place for a while.
Yeah, it's not just once you finish it. Finishing it takes a long time. Then you don't want to do a festival run, which can be up to a year. Many festival runs are about a year. Then you hope to get distribution, and it's very difficult to get distribution for short films, obviously. But even with feature films, you want them to go into sale. But the Black Gloves, you mentioned Laurie Brewster's The Black Gloves. I think that's going to be spring of next year when that'll be available.
That's a feature length.
That's his follow up to The Unkindness of Ravens and Lord of Tears.
Yes.
But, yeah. Last I heard November, but
you're probably right. Yeah. No,
oh,
really? I was trying to. I couldn't. I'm getting slightly confused. I think because you're probably right. I'm thinking of spring because one of the things I've been working on recently. I've just done 2 short films. There's Your Appraisal, which is hopefully going onto the festival circuit. When a festival accepts it, it'll go onto the festival circuit. And then a short film called Necessary Evils, which is going to be part of an anthology which Laurie and Hex Media are doing called For We Are Many, which is all about demons. That's going to be coming out in spring of... Well, it's going into festivals, I think, in spring of next year. But it'll be available for Kickstarter. So, of course, it's like all these things. If there's, particularly with Kickstarter, if you're financing stuff, then you've got to raise the money, you've got to make the film. And it just takes a long time.
Right.
Stuff appears.
One of the other short films you were in, I just wanted to mention, I found a couple images from it, but you've actually played Dracula before. Is that correct?
I don't remember playing Dracula, but
it was
possibly looks like Dracula. No. No. Okay, I know the film you mean. Day After Dark. Day After Night. The Day After Dark. No, The Day After... I can't even remember the name of it. This is honestly, I tell you, I really should... I'm actually going to go onto IMDb now and look at my IMDb page, and then I can tell you about all the stuff that I've been doing, because I know I'm going to forget stuff. That is so sad, but, that's what happens when you get to my age. Nicolas Vince. Yeah, I am still there. That's always good to know.
It's always good to know.
I'm forgetting things like, oh, God, yeah. That I knew I was going to have... okay, cool. Crikey. Yes, you were absolutely right. And I can see exactly what you... So what you're possibly referring to is Resurrection of Dracula?
Yes.
Yes. Which is along with Psychedelic Death and Werewolf of Moldavia. Now, these are actually video shorts for the DVD version of You're So Cool, Brewster, which comes from Dead Mouse Productions, which is basically a whole load of interviews with the creators of Fright Night.
Okay.
And one of the DVD, and as DVD extras, they got myself and Simon Bamford, because Simon Bamford plays Roddy McDowell playing Peter Vincent in Fright Night to introduce the interviews. But they did these mock trailers, one of which is Resurrection of Dracula. So yes, you're absolutely right. I hadn't realised they called it that. So yes, I think there are 4 of them. There's Psychedelic Death, Resurrection of Dracula, Werewolf of Moldavia, I Rip Your Jugular, So I mean, I think there's lots of them. I can very quickly. There's Remnant, there's Retribution, there's Mindless, as I've mentioned, Rats, Hollower, Borley Rectory, which is coming out. Talking about a long time to make a movie, I think that one's 4 years to make a film, which is 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's officially a feature film now. It was going to be a short film that's coming. That I'm going to see that in a couple of weekends' time, and that is based on the most haunted house in Britain. But it's all rotoscoped, so we went in and we filmed against green screen, and then Ashley built up all this it's a one-man band doing all the animation for a 1 hour 15-minute movie. So that's coming out very soon, and of course there's The Offer, which includes the rest of my Hellraiser chums, which has got Simon Bamford, Barbie Wilde, who's female Cenobite in Hellbound, Ken Cranham, Dr. Channard in Hellbound, Oliver Smith, who played Frank the Monster, or I think of as Skinned Frank. Mm-hmm. Oliver Smith in both Hellraiser and Hellbound. He's in The Offer as well. And that again comes from Dead Mouse Productions, who did the other short films with it. So yeah, there's an awful lot of stuff just coming out again in the next few months on the festival circuit.
Yeah, and so going back to the Black Gloves, how did you get acquainted with Laurie Brewster?
Basically, that was through my YouTube show and a festival we have over here in London called Fright Fest. So let me get my timings right. So last year was that. Okay. The one before that, the festival before that, another mate of mine, a guy called Liam Regan, who has done a film called Banjo. That was screened at Fright Fest. Now, Liam's a British filmmaker. He did this feature film all by himself. It very much in the Troma style. In fact, has got Lloyd Kaufman in it.
There you go.
It's all such a small world. So basically, they screened Banjo one year, and the audience just said afterwards, listen, to the festival directors saying, we want more of these. We want more independent feature films made by UK filmmakers. And so, yeah, we take that on board. We'll do something about that. Then, so last year in August at Fright Fest, they had a day dedicated to these films. And Laurie, you mentioned Unkindness of Ravens. That was there. That was part of that. And I'd chosen a few of those people. I managed to get hold of a few people to invite them onto Chattering with Nicolas Vince and interviewed them. So I'd spoken to Laurie Brewster and his partner Sarah Daly, who writes them. So Laurie directs and Sarah writes the movies. I'd interviewed them, and then I just met them in person at Fright Fest, and we got on incredibly well. And Laurie just said, yeah, I'd like to use you in something at some point. So I spent a wonderful couple of days in Scotland filming, working on Black Gloves. It's brilliant.
So they had the film finished and they released a stretch goal to have you in it? Is that how it worked? Or were you always part of the plan?
Basically, the way Laurie works is really interesting, and I think it's a very interesting model for other independent filmmakers to think about. So basically, they did a crowdfunding for completion rather than to actually make the film. So basically, they'd shot most of the film, but they had got my part, so basically they were raising funds as part of distribution. In other words, it's pre-sales. So what Laurie does is he makes a movie, and then he goes to crowdfund it to do distribution. So because Hex Media do their own distribution, they don't go they'll put their films into festivals, but they handle their own distribution. It's all done from their office. I've seen the piles of DVDs and Blu-rays in their office for sending out. So yeah, so it's kind of that was kind of the deal. That basically, when we they wanted to complete the film, they wanted me to be part of it. So they had a segment for me to do. Unfortunately, they got the money so that they could bring me up and do the filming with them.
Awesome. So do you have any other questions there? Or?
I don't think so. Not about the Black Gloves. And it says you were in one other feature that's about to come out recently. What is it? Book of Monsters? It's coming out soon? Or...
It's just finished. No, and again, it's that thing is like, because you have to generate so much excitement when you're doing a Kickstarter. People naturally want things as soon as possible. So, and it was an incredibly fast turnaround. They finished most of Principal's photography, the studio shots. They did 10 days of that. They finished that literally last weekend, about 3 or 4 days ago. So they did this Kickstarter. This is Stuart Spark and Paul Butler of Dark Rift Films. Their timing was so precise. Because have you guys done a Kickstarter before?
I've done an indie... I did a Kickstarter before, and it was unsuccessful. But I've done an Indiegogo, which we got our funding for.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations.
For two separate... We did Hell at Heathridge, which was a horror film, and we did that through Kickstarter. But we didn't end up making... We still made the movie, but we didn't get all the money we wanted to. But Unlucky, the film that I directed, we went through Indiegogo just to make sure if we didn't get our goal, we still got the funding.
You got something to help you make that. Yeah, it's really interesting the difference between Indiegogo and Kickstarter, because I always had the reason I went for Kickstarter was because I thought, well, if I get some of the money, I'm not going to be able to make the film,
right? But
then I'm committed to making the film. Whereas Kickstarter, it's all it's
all or nothing.
It's all or nothing, which for me is very comforting.
Yeah. But I also feel like more people know about Kickstarter. Like Indiegogo isn't really as big. Like the only big movies I know that went through Indiegogo are Super Troopers 2 and the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. But most of these go through Kickstarter. Yeah,
and it's I think it's massively bigger Kickstarter, and I think there is that thing of in terms of backers, people think, okay, they've worked out how much money they need. Now they're going to be able to go and make the movie, whereas with Indiegogo, you could make 10% of your money, but you're still going to have to make a movie at the end of it.
Right.
So so it's different. So basically, with the Kickstarter they did for the Book of Monsters, they had a limited time. Basically, they're both connected with a film school in the north of England. They realized that they got some new equipment that they needed to learn how to use. They had a whole load of students and tutors who could say, okay, well, we're doing this for our development. And they had a window during the holidays where they could use the equipment, and then they could get a studio. So their timing was absolutely amazing. The other thing about Book of Monsters, which of course made it kind of unique, was all the backers got to vote on which monsters appear in the movie.
Really?
So, well, not just the monsters, but the weapon of last resort, and the horror trope, which must die, I remember was one of them. A particular death that is so basically, once they got the money, they sent out a survey to people saying, okay, which of these 6 monsters do you want to choose? Which of these 6 deaths do you want to choose? Which of these weapons do you want to choose? And of course, depending on those choices, then the whole plot of the movie changed. So they'd actually got it set up, because I thought, okay, well, so obviously the sensible way to do that was, you've got your storyline, and you just drop in these choices. No, depending on what choices were made, the movie ends differently. So they couldn't actually give me a script. They told me about it. They couldn't give me a script until the funding was successful and they got all the surveys back in. So I had, it's been a wonderful day last week or the week before, playing the dad. It's great. I get cast as dads or evil priests these days. I'm really excited, and it looks gorgeous because they're using Arri Alexas. They're working in the professional film studio, and they've got some really, really talented people, not just the actors, but actors from their previous film, The Creature Below, which, funnily enough, and again, that all came out at exactly the same process as The Black Gloves. They were at Fright Fest last year as part of the book of the First Blood strand in Fright Fest last year. So yeah, that was fun. And that's going to be out, I think that, again, they'll probably start putting it into festivals early next year.
Awesome. Well, that's really all the specific questions I have. Do you have any other questions? Or...
Yeah. You're working on a lot of short films now and stuff. What process do you prefer? I think I know the answer to this already, but shooting a feature length or doing a short film. Like, what's your favorite part of each of those, or which one's your favorite thing to do?
Or which do you prefer?
Which do you prefer is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth here.
Yeah. No. It's kind of it's interesting. So if I'm acting, then I'm acting. It doesn't really matter if it's feature film or short film. Although with the short films, generally speaking, the experience so far is I will be a lead in, I'll have a starring role in the short films. The feature films, I'm more likely to have a featured role or a cameo or something. I'll be, apart from Hollower, where I'm definitely starring in that one. And again, book it just depends on the part. Is there something to get your teeth into?
No pun.
I mean, I'm really, physically and metaphorically. So that's what I prefer. I'm really lucky. The guys I work with and I choose to work with, I'm in that situation where I choose whether or not I work on a project. I haven't got enough time to work on something that I really don't want to work on. So I'm very choosy as to what I do. So therefore, every project I've worked on, I was really pleased to be working on it. Does that kind of answer your question? It really just depends.
Yeah. Here's one that's probably a little bit more difficult. What's your favorite project that you have done? What's the finished product? You've watched it back, and which is your favorite?
The Night Whispered. I've watched that twice today because, as I say, I'm making it ready for sales and to go to a much larger audience. And I still get goosebumps. I still jump at it. They're all. It's really hard to say because I should hate to offend any of the filmmakers I've worked with, saying, "Well, I prefer that movie over that one." Honestly, it's The Night Whispered. Generally speaking, it's going to be the last thing you worked on. I suppose.
And plus, I can imagine you have much more of an sort of emotional connection to that one because not only did you act in it, but you also wrote and directed it as well.
Yeah.
Which plays a big part in it.
Yeah, obviously that plays a big part. And I know, some of the things that, I enjoyed doing particularly is Katie Bonham's Mindless, where basically I'm on screen 90% of the time. And I got some really good feedback and very positive comments on that performance. But again, Hollower, I really enjoy it as a movie, and Retribution and Remnant, all the other stuff that I've done. I enjoy them as movies, and I think people have done. You can. I think whenever you're making anything, everyone is going to go back and say, "Oh, we could have done that better." There's that moment. As a filmmaker, you're always going to say, "Wish I'd done." If only we'd had more time on that. If we, there are always things that you would love to improve and to polish. So, yeah, it is a very difficult one to answer. But as of today, having watched The Night Whispered a couple of times today, there is also this movie by a guy called Clive Barker, called Hellraiser. Pretty damn fond of that one. Pretty damn proud of that. It's really.
Do you prefer Hellraiser or Hellbound? How about that? That's tough. I've got them kind of like right up there on the same thing. They're kind of like a different. They're both kind of different from each other.
But I think Hellbound is, I guess, a little more interesting because we see a lot more of their world. At least for me, it's a little more intriguing.
A lot of my friends prefer Hellbound, and I might give the slight edge to Hellraiser just because of how kind of like discreet it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And like I kind of like that. Like my favorite movie of all time is Halloween, and you really don't see
that
everything in Halloween. Now, I mean, like Hellraiser's not exactly.
I mean, you do see the
what
guy
comes
getting
to mind
apart,
when it's a discreet movie, but it's more kind of on Earth, whereas that other one is so fantastic and just a lot of stuff is happening.
It's really interesting. I remember after Hellbound came out, there are definitely two camps. There are people who prefer Hellraiser, people who prefer Hellbound. You're both absolutely right. They're very different movies. Well, I mean, of course, Clive was writing and directing the first one. The second one is written by Pete Atkins and directed by Tony Randall. So you got very different feel, and as you say, very different scope. It's probably going to be Hellraiser, possibly for two reasons. I mean, I love both, and the reasons why I love them both are: first one, it's a family drama with demons. It's about the humans. We're only on screen for 8 minutes in Hellraiser. You only see the Cenobites for about 8.5 minutes in total.
That long?
Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's more about Julia. I mean, to me, Claire Higgins' performance in Hellraiser and everywhere, and that Andrew Robinson as well, for different reasons. Julia, Claire Higgins, because she does this amazing journey from pissed off housewife through to serial killer. And you just see her change through the movie. Andrew Robinson plays Larry, the meek husband, and also plays Frank, this psychopathic guy who's after everything he can get. So I love those, of that about it. Hellbound, exactly what you're talking about. It's that larger expanse. It's the weirdness. I love the Tiffany going into the labyrinth and coming across the clown sitting cross-legged juggling with eyeballs. You have all this weird imagery, going on in it. It is much better. And again, it's the performances. Ken Cranham is just a joy to watch. Absolute, just that change from, doctor to monster is brilliant. Absolutely superb.
So, all right, we all like the first two Hellraiser movies, but have you dug deeper? Have you gone past the first two? Have you watched what is it? Hell on
Earth. It's number 3.
And then there's like Hell World and stuff. The newest one, Revelations, I think that doesn't even have Doug in it anymore.
No, well, the last two haven't had Doug in it. I've definitely watched 3 all the way through. I watched Bloodline all the way through. I've watched bits of the other ones. I'm kind of really proud and pleased to say that Chatterer, in some form or another, as somebody pointed out, I hadn't realized this. You know, there are versions. You know, there are versions of Chatterer in later movies. There is a Chatterer dog.
I saw that. I haven't been brave enough to delve past 2. In all honesty, I have a laser disc of. I have a Japanese laser disc of 3 that I might give a spin one day, but.
Yeah, it's interesting. I there are people who are fond of 3. I think we refer to them as Lego Cenobites very unkindly. I think there's something. One of the great things, because they get made by CDs flying into their head and barbed wire, and you see them being made. Whereas I think there's something slightly in the first movie, because you know so little about the Cenobites.
Yeah.
It makes you, it allows your imagination to play. That's part of the attraction. On the other hand, it's really good fun to write backstories for things, which is why I wrote the short story that's coming out in Hellraiser anthology, and I like the backstory for Doug as Pinhead in Hellbound. So 3, hand on heart, I can say I've watched all the way through and enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed Bloodline as well. I thought it was really interesting. I thought there was some very interesting moments.
What's the one where it's like they're on an online video game or something like that? Is that Hellworld? Or no, that's 3.
Possibly. 3 is Hell on Earth.
Hell on Earth. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure is the answer to your question.
I'm pretty sure there's one. Like someone told me about one where they're like in an online game or something, and it just sounded so crazy.
I think that's like 7 or 8. It's one of the it's one of the more recent ones. Doug's still in it, I think, or is he?
I'm pretty sure he's still in that one. And then there was like Revelations was the one that he was not in, and I guess they made another one after that where he's not in it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he did 8. I think he played Pinhead 8 times, and they've made at least 10, if not 11, Hellraiser movies.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a franchise.
It's a franchise. But anyway, our viewers don't have that much of an attention span, so I guess we should move into the final segment of our show. And
it's an American. That's an American attention span. That's on.
And I have a dog to feed apart from anything else. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a little embarrassing saying that. Do you want to? Do you want to introduce? Okay, so basically, we're recording this a little advanced. This episode's going to come out in October.
Okay.
And the way we
a lot of things that you've been talking about might even be out by then. A couple of them will be. So those will be out. Make sure you guys that are listening check that out and take a look, support, and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we like to do something a little special every October. We like to call it Cocktober. And every week when we do every week we like to do a poll each week on our Twitter. We each select we have a theme each week, and we select what we believe is the sexiest, most attractive man in that category in pop culture and movies, comics, whatever. It's free reign. And we pit them against each other in a poll.
And the viewers vote on who they think is the sexier.
So this week for Cocktober, we're talking to a man with a glorious goatee, and we thought maybe the theme this week would be goatees.
Okay.
And we were wondering if you would want to participate in this with us and make your selection.
Well, yeah, and I can. It'd be really interesting to see who you're going to put me against. That sounds wrong in every
No,
sense.
you can.
No, you're selected.
You can select someone. You can
I
select
get
a
to
character.
select someone. Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
so
You can select yourself, and if I were you, I would select yourself because you're almost assured victory.
Okay, cool. I just want to check. I have a name in mind, and I'm sure he's worn goatees recently. I'm not sure if, yeah. He definitely has been known to wear goatees and various other beards, and that's an actor called Michael Eklund.
Michael Eklund.
Michael Eklund.
Let's take a look
Eklund.
at this guy here.
Yeah, Michael Eklund, Eklund. He's from Saskatchewan in Canada. He was in Watchmen. He's done a whole load of. In fact, as an actor, he's got 125 credits. I like him particularly in See No Evil 2, the Soska sisters. He's made a couple of films with the Soska sisters.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's a very good-looking
guy. Solid-looking guy here.
Yeah.
So is that your pick? That's who you're going with?
Yes, that's my pick, Michael Eklund.
All right, buddy.
Jared, do you have a pick?
Yeah,
Jared loses every single poll, basically.
I won one. I've won one poll in the entire history of Two Nerds a Podcast. But
so I will let you have a pick before I take.
I want to react to your pick in this one.
Okay,
actually.
Well, there are many people I could go with. Obviously, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes to mind.
Oh, that's a great
hell
pick.
of a goatee. Johnny Depp has been known to rock a goatee, specifically in the Pirates of the Caribbean. I think I'm going Brad Pitt with this one.
Okay. So I'm going to react to that, and you've mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, but what I would like, there's another professional wrestler turned actor that you did
Dwayne
not
"The Rock"
mention
Johnson.
that has rocked a goatee, and that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as I like to refer to as just The Rock.
As we all should refer to as just
He
The
should
Rock.
be just called The Rock, unless you know him personally. And
Do you know The Rock personally?
have you ever met The Rock?
No, I haven't.
You've yet to have the privilege of meeting The Rock.
I'm trying to. What's he worn a goatee in? I don't immediately think of him as wearing it.
Well, he has one in his day-to-day life.
And G.I. Joe, he has a goatee. Be Cool, or is it the sequel? Is it Be Cooler that he's in?
I can't recall.
He's like he's like a gay bouncer or something in that movie, and he has a goatee and he does the people's eyebrow and everything.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, he's worn a goatee in a couple things. I think he's even worn a goatee in wrestling once or twice.
He's been known to rock a goatee in the squared circle, my friend.
All right, so
Sorry, did you say Brad Pitt?
I did. That is my pick.
In what does he worn a goatee?
I don't know if he's worn one in a film,
but he's worn one on the red carpet.
He's worn one many a times on the red carpet.
Okay,
he's sported the goatee.
Actually, I don't even. I can't picture Brad Pitt with a goatee. I listen. If he done anything like if he ever did the Musketeers, I'd be certain he'd be wearing a goatee if he did the Musketeers. No,
he wasn't.
No, I don't think so.
He'd have the pointy mustache. I could see him with like the waxed up mustache.
Yeah.
Curled around.
The Salvador Dali.
Yeah, the Salvador Dali.
Yeah. Actually, of course, I'm just trying to think. Robert Pattinson has worn a goatee as Salvador Dali.
Robert Pattinson played Salvador Dali?
Yes. In a movie.
You'll have to forgive us. In America, we only know Robert Pattinson for Twilight.
That's basically it.
Yeah, no, and I completely
Why are you
understand
showing me the Brad Pitt goatee? Let me see the Robert Pattinson goatee.
Yeah, no, and his Ashes. What is the name of this movie that I'm desperately trying? Little Ashes plays Salvador Dali in a movie called Little Ashes, and I swear at some point he rocks a goatee. Because he's playing, I think, towards the end of the film, in the later life.
He's definitely got a goatee in some of these pictures. I don't know, they're not from the film, but I'll just look up Robin Pattinson, Salvador Dali.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I
little
can see him with
ashes.
I can see him with the moustache. I can't see him with a little goatee. So I may be wrong that he doesn't actually rock a goatee, but I because
Oh, there's the
Charlie had that
sash.
little,
There's the sash.
the most wonderful. But he had the
Oh my God. I'll splice the image in and post so you can see what I'm
Fix it in post.
Oh man.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But I'm going to stick with
Excellent.
with Michael Eklund. I'll stick with Michael Eklund.
I think that's the smart
That's
choice
the-
there.
yes.
I think he's probably the best, the most handsome out of our choices right now.
Yes. Well, I guess that's about it. Thanks for taking the time to be on our show with us.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor talking to you.
Yeah.
Huge fan of your movies.
Thank
and-
you.
And Hellraiser in particular, obviously.
And we look forward to the Black Gloves and any future projects on the horizon. Any scripts you've gotten or anything, or
Basically, I'm just there are some stuff that's too early to speak about,
okay.
but you know, I'm concentrating on more filmmaking and writing. Once I got the 30th anniversary of Hellraiser out the way, because that's what mostly October is about. October and November. So basically, September is my catch up with everything I haven't been able to catch up with and get on top of, and then I'm going into October, November. But I'm going to be, I'm hopefully doing another. The plan is to do at least. Oh, there is something I can talk about. Soska Sisters Blood Drive. I'm doing a short film for that, which is quite interesting and fun. That should be out because that'll be out in February of next year, along with a whole load of other filmmakers. Because this year they're basically doing one film a day, rather than doing everyone working on the same film, same music. Everyone's just been asked to come up with their own short film. So I'm working on that, and then I'm just waiting for some stuff to happen and get cast in and so on. But I've got some more filming at the beginning of next year. Touch wood. So there's stuff happening. Yeah, there's definitely still stuff to happen.
Where can everyone follow you on social media?
Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, Nicolas Vince. There are two profiles on Facebook. There's Nicholas Berman Vince, and then there's Nicolas Vince. You've got the website www.nicholasvince.com, which is so out of date at the moment because I've been so busy since February of this year. February the 7th, my life changed. I need to update. In fact, I'm going to be restructuring that and redesigning that, hopefully, probably in December. I think that's probably what I'm going to be doing at Christmas. But yeah, so there is that. But Facebook, I generally hang around Facebook and occasionally hang around Twitter.
Excellent.
And how can people what's your? It's just Chattering with Nicolas Vince is I'm subscribed to
the
it.
YouTube show. Yeah, Chattering with Nicolas Vince. There are links on the website. There is a private group on. I'm hopefully creating a new page for that on Facebook. And yet another one of those things I need to get on top of. But yeah, if you go on YouTube, Chattering with Nicolas Vince, I've now done 101, 102 episodes of that. Recently did the 100th episode of that, so got some really great. And recently did an interview with a lady called Patricia McCormack on necrosexuality. That's very popular, that one.
There's the films Necromantic and Necromantic 2 that I've been trying to get my hands on for quite a time now.
Those are all I can say about Necromantic, which I saw when it first came out at a festival. What I like to think about when I look at that movie is the little white bunny that ran away at the end. And I know it's in reverse. But if you ever do get hold of it, all I like to remember is the little white bunny. It's an amazing film. I huge admiration for. Funnily enough, we talk about it in the show. Patricia was pointing out that Necromantic 2 is very interesting because it's done from the perspective it's the woman's point of view, which is very unusual. But yeah, very interesting chat about necrosexuality. I do recommend that one. And then, again, lots of other people on the
we
show.
will be watching it right now.
Yeah, we're going straight to that one.
Cool. All right then, gentlemen.
All right, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
on
so
the show.
much. Yeah.
And we'll talk to you later.
Talking over each other.
All right, then, guys. Thank you very much indeed for having me on board. Take care. And I'm going to go
too.
feed the dog now.
Yep.
Take care.